Neham Shri Guru Haram Shri Param Prabham Swastam Charanayam Shri Guru Charanam Mande Namah Vishthai Bhutale Rapam Charanam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Adarsh Sadi Gaur Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Ram. First of all, I offer my respectful obeisances at the lotus feet of our spiritual masters, Nitlai Shriman Bhaktivedanta Shri Giri Maharaj Shri Giridhari, Nitlai Shriman Bhaktivedanta Shri Giri Maharaj Shri Giridhari, to entire Panakarya Guru Varga, to our guardians, to all the Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, and everyone else present. So the question asked by the Vaishnavas is, there is that famous sloka in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is describing the qualities of a sadhu. So sadhu means one who is in connection with that satvastu. What is that satvastu? That is Sandhini Shakti itself. That is Baladev Prabhu himself, who is Akhanda Guru Tattva, the undivided principle of Sri Guru. So he is sadhu, who is in relationship with that satvastu. So therein Krishna says that Abhijit suduracharu bhajane mamananyabhak sadhareva samantavya. So this way, here and next verses, Shitam Bodhya. So there, Krishna, he tells Arjun that anyone who one-pointedly worships me, Vajatema Ananyabhak, one-pointedly worships me, even if he engages in some not just durachar, but sudurachar. So here you see there is sadachar and durachar. So what is the meaning of achar? Achar here means is proper etiquette, proper moral conduct, proper religious principles. So if you look up this wisdom library, this website, you'll see all these definitions there. Like more than 400,000 entries there. So here you see there is achar. There, this is proper religious moral conduct. And then there is sadachar. So sadachar means this, there is this adjective which is added there, which is extremely religious conduct, good conduct. And then the opposite of that, the antonym of that is durachar. So durachari. So durachar means wicked conduct which is opposed to religious principles, immoral conduct, which is opposed to the etiquette of society, the conduct of society. And then if you say there is sudurachar, so there is the superlative degree, which is su. No, like we say, like sometimes we use the su to emphasize more. So here there is sudurachar. So here means one who's even, he performs wicked deeds to a greater extent. So here Krishna is saying in the Gita that which is suduracharu, bhajate mamananyabhak, he says. There he says that if he worships me one-pointedly, then he is still to be considered as a sadhu. There is no second doubt about this. Why? Because he is engaged in my one-pointed worship. So here you see that some devotees may use this as an excuse. That, oh, Krishna is saying this in the Gita, so I can do as I wish and behave as I want. But at the end of the day, I am a sadhu. So he may think like this. Now, first of all, we have to consider that one of the greatest references to the holy name is to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. So if one devotee keeps doing sinful activities on the strength of the holy name, then actually he is a namaparadi. And sometimes we see that this act of sudurachar, it happens because of one's previous impressions, from previous lives, not from this life. From previous lives it sometimes happens. So therefore sometimes it is out of his hand. He cannot control. Under certain circumstances, some things are bound to happen, which are like not properly in line with his devotional practices. And the most celebrated example of this we see is Bilamangal Thakur. Now we see, Bilamangal Thakur, he is one-pointed devotee. of Krishna. But still we see that in his life he was attached to Chintamani, so much so that he left his, even when his father died, he didn't perform the Antim Sanskar also, the final rites for his father. Immediately he left. In the middle of the night he tried seeing her, but then he fell on the ground. And then Chintamani chastised him, saying, if you only had so much attachment for Krishna, your life would have been successful. So then these words, they pierced his heart like an arrow. And then when he was on his way to Vrindavan, again the same impressions from his previous lives again appeared. Where we see again there was this lady drawing water from a well, but then again he looked at her and he again became attracted. And then anyhow, what did he do then? Because he was Ananya Nishtha, because his Nishtha was one-pointed and unbroken, immediately he realized what he was doing. And then he took two hairpins and he pierced his eyes. So there we see his Nishtha there. There we see how one-pointed he was. Immediately he gouged his eyes out and then he proceeded on his way to Vrindavan. And even when Radha and Krishna gave him darshan, it seemed Krishna himself, when he appeared with Srimati Radhika, when Bilamangal Thakur could not see, Krishna himself was actually telling him that, Radharani, don't go near him, he's right there, he'll catch your feet, he'll catch your feet. This actually Krishna was implying to Bilamangal Thakur that catch hold of Srimati Radhika's lotus feet. Saying, don't go near him. Immediately Bilamangal Thakur, since Radharani was there, he caught her lotus feet there. And then they even gave him this Divya Drishti, divine vision. But then immediately after he had that darshan, he said, please take these eyes out. After having seen you, I don't wish to see anything else of this world. So this is how much faith he had. This is the faith, the strong, unflinching faith that he had in Radha and Krishna, that he did not care for any of the worldly beauty of this world. Therefore, he is like the example of this verse. And we see also in Mahaprabhu's Leela, there are so many personalities like that. And we see who are the best examples? Jagai and Madai. We see that Jagai and Madai also, it seemed that they were also, at first it seemed they were not sadhus. They were sadhus. And we see, that they committed, there was no sinful activity that they did not commit. They did everything. But still in the end they were forgiven for all their offenses. And then why? Because this was because of their ananyata, their one-pointedness in the service of Mahaprabhu. And in the end also we see that Madai was still feeling very repentful in heart, because he felt that the Nadiyavasis, he had caused them so much pain. So he wanted to seek forgiveness from the core of his heart. So then Nityananda Prabhu told him, alright, you go to the bank of the Ganga, you make a nice bathing hut there, and any resident of Navadvip who comes to bathe there, wash his feet, sprinkle that water on your head, and then you make sure that they have their bath very comfortably. This way you arrange for their comfort there, and this way this is your service to all the Vaishnavas, Navadvip Vasis. And this is how they did their service. So we see that although in their previous lifetime they did many things which are opposed, still we see in their present lifetime, what we have to consider is their present status. In their present day lives, they're completely changed. Why? Because of their one-pointedness towards Krishna. Because they were so one-pointed towards him that anyhow, whatever lapses were seen, those lapses were forgiven. So in this way, we must not ever think that once sadhu has done something, that we think, he has fallen down. That this is not for us to judge actually. We must be very careful. Gurudev said, you must be very careful about certain things. Like we see during Prabhupada's Saraswati Thakur's time, there was one brahmachari. He was a very good sevak. So then what happened? He was a very good sevak in Chaitanya Math, but he became entangled with a lady, this brahmachari. He became entangled with a lady, and then the other devotees found out, the other brahmacharis, and they made him leave the temple, saying like, you're doing this, now you have to leave. So then anyhow, he did not want to leave Prabhupada, but he left. And then when Prabhupada found out, he became very unhappy what had happened. He said that really, why didn't you see the good thing in him? The good thing in him was that he was engaged one-pointedly in his services. But then anyhow, because of some unforeseen circumstances, previous sanskars, because we see that our present devotional lives are not just our present sanskars. We think that we are presently doing all these things, like observing Navada Bhakti, 9 limbs of devotion, Panchada Bhakti, the 5 limbs of devotion, Trivida Bhakti, 3 limbs of devotion, Shravan Kirtan Smaran. And then we see in our temple, especially Ekada Bhakti is so much, like we see Kirtan, Vaishnavas emphasize so much, because this Kirtan is the only means in Kali Yuga. So here we see that we are getting so many present impressions from performing these limbs of devotion, but we don't know who we were in our previous lives, no. But still, nonetheless, even though we don't know who we were in our previous lives, those sanskaras are still carrying on in our present lives also. Like we feel there are certain instincts in us which are not from our present lives, which are from our previous lives. So this way, Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur, he told the brahmacharis that why did you make him leave? No. So then anyhow, he told Hayagiri Brahmachari. Gurudev himself, he speaks this story. He told Hayagiri Brahmachari that, Hayagiri Brahmachari, no, who's Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, you go and look for this person, where he is. Wherever he is, you go look for him. So then, Hayagiri Brahmachari, he went looking for this Brahmachari. And when he went looking for him, he went looking all over the nearby places there. Since the mutt was in Mayapur, there is Krishna Nagar there is Vardhaman, there is Mandel, Deoghar, Bengal, so many places there. So he went looking everywhere. There he found this Brahmachari working in a watch factory. So then Hayagiri Brahmachari, he told this Brahmachari, what are you doing here? He said, what can I do? They chased me out of the temple. And now see my situation, now how I'm suffering. He said, suffering in this watch factory, I'm working here day and night. Whatever little money I cannot even maintain myself. Some food they're giving me, I'm eating. And he was weeping as he was saying, this is how my life has become. Completely destroyed. So immediately Hayagiri Brahmachari said, come, Prabhupada is calling, look him to meet Prabhupada. Prabhupada also happily embraced him. And he forgave him also for that, for those translations. So we see that even if something happens, some fall down, we should never judge. This is one of the greatest mistakes we make. We end up judging. And then what happens, that same fault will enter our hearts also. So we see that he became very repentful in heart. If one is really a sadhu, even if something happens, then he will become very repentful in his heart. Saying, what happened? Why did I do this? Alas, this was so unbefitting. Sadhu Saudan, they say, must always be careful. Why did I do this? Immediately he'll pray for forgiveness. And as soon as he prays for forgiveness from the core of his heart, if his prayer is genuine and sincere, it is said that he is already forgiven actually. He prays genuinely from the core of his heart. And the next is only like formalities, like he has to be more, next time he should be more careful. So this way we must always think from this aspect, that we are not masters to chastise. That the Vaishnavas or Guru Varga, they can chastise and correct that person, but not us. No, like the Vaishnavas, they tell us that story in Devananda Gaudiya Math. Once there was this person who was a thief previously, and when he joined Devananda Gaudiya Math, what would he do? Because he was a thief in his previous life, he could not control that habit of stealing from others. So whatever belongings the others would have, what would he do? He would take those belongings from one room and keep them in another room. Before everyone would wake up, before Mangalarati, he would exchange all their belongings. So then when the brahmacharis and sannyasis wake up in the morning, they see that where are our clothes, where are our other belongings. They look all around the temple, they find them in other places. Who's doing this? Who's doing this mischief? So one day Gurudev, as we know, he's a police officer, said, I'll stay awake all night and I'll see. So then Gurudev, what did he do? He stayed awake the whole night, and the next morning before Mangalarati, he was seeing who is this person doing this mischief. So then he was, Gurudev was also tiptoeing along with this person. So this way, this person, he was stealing from one room to another, then Gurudev immediately caught him in the middle of the night, caught his hand, saying, who are you? And then he saw it was a brahmachari in the temple. So why are you doing this? And immediately he started falling at the feet of Gurudev, weeping, this is my habit. No, they say habit is second nature. They say, no, this is like what? I cannot control myself. I have to steal, so I do this. What can I do? So then Gurudev had so much mercy for him. Immediately took him to meet Param Gurudev. And this brahmachari fell at the feet of Param Gurudev also. He started weeping so much, saying, what to do? This is my disease, my nature. And Param Gurudev heard his prayers. And then Param Gurudev's heart melted actually. He said, from now on, you will never have this habit. He blessed him. because you have said that you have this problem, now onwards I bless you, you'll never have this problem ever again in your life. And then that devotee became a great devotee in his life because he was blessed by our Guru Varga. No? Like we see even the Vaishnavas, they tell us that one story that once Gurudev was in Mathura and there was this one brahmachari who was very repentful in his heart because he still had some connections with his previous ashram, with his previous family. So unlike some of us, he fell at the feet of Gurudev and he begged for forgiveness. He begged for like this thing, saying, "Oh Gurudev, what can I do? I'm very attached to my family." Then this, that. He fell at the feet of Gurudev weeping. Then Gurudev again his heart melted. Said, "Okay, you will be free of this anartha." He blessed him. So this way we see there are so many such instances the Vaishnavas they tell us about. They told us over the years. So this way we see that we have this anartha in our hearts. We genuinely, if any sadhu has this, no, means one who is one-pointedly engaged in this bhajan. What is this ananya nishtha? Means nishtita bhakti, which is characterized by this paramarthiki shraddha. That, like Haridas Thakur says, no, where even if my body is cut into many pieces, anyhow I will not stop chanting Harinam. So if one has that nishtha in his heart, then he is a sadhu, and even if some fall down happens, he is forgiven. Krishna himself is saying this. But there are some who are not even attained that stage of bhakti. They commit many offenses and they say that, "Oh, Krishna has forgiven me because I am sadhu." So we say, first of all, a Vaishnava will never call himself a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava will say that the entire world is a Vaishnava, or everyone else in the world is a Vaishnava except me. He will never call himself a Vaishnava. So one is already calling himself a Vaishnava and he's saying, "I'm a sadhu, so Krishna has to forgive me." Then we see that the shortcoming is already there. That he's calling himself a sadhu. He's calling himself a Vaishnava. So there itself we see the anartha is there. That pride is there. So therefore when he's doing this again and again, then it's actually nama prada. Then we see there is no ananya bhakti there. There is no ananya nishtha there. And he'll have to suffer for his offenses there. When he's doing all that, then immediate operation then we see. No, like can we say Ramchandra Khan was like this Ananya Bhakta? First we see he committed offenses to Haridas Thakur by sending a prostitute, trying to make him fall down. And then when Nityananda Prabhu came, he did the same thing also to Nityananda Prabhu, saying, "You are all cowards, don't come here to Durga Mandap, go there," he said, where the Goshala is. So can we say that he is Ananya Bhak? What happened to him then? Was he forgiven? The Muslims came, destroyed everything in his village, and ate cow meat there, ate beef there. So was he like this? Never. No. But still we see in other cases, they were forgiven. Especially we see in Mahaprabhu's Leela, so many such cases, they were all forgiven if they genuinely prayed to Mahaprabhu. No. Like we see Chand Kazi also. He also did so many things, he was forgiven. Because ultimately he had that nishtha in Mahaprabhu. So here we see that this verse is actually for someone who is in the stage of not less than Ashakti. This verse, actually, we see. Not less than Ashakti also. So, we see that in the stage of Bhav, one can never fall actually. Even if in some extraordinary cases one falls down from the stage of Bhav, it is only to show the world that he must be very careful. Like Jada Bharat, he was in the stage of Bhav, but he apparently fell down. But actually that was for instructing us and not for anyone else. So because even Chitraketu Maharaj also was in the stage of Bhav. So how did he become Vitrasur then? It was only to instruct us. So therefore, as sadhaks, as aspiring spiritual practitioners, first of all, we must be careful to avoid that fall down in the first place. We must be very careful in our everyday lives. But we say that most of our cases we cannot control ourselves. No, like something unforeseen sometimes is bound to happen. So therefore, at all times we must be praying to the Vaishnavas, to our Guru Varga, saying, "Oh, ekaki amar nahi paye bal, Harinam Sankirtane. Tumi kripa kari shraddha bindu diya deho Krishna naam dhare." This is our only mantra. Ekaki amar nahi paye bal. No, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur also sings, "Kabe no kripa labhiye jana kritartha hoi benatha shakti buddhihin amiyati din karo more atmasata. Yogyata vichare kichu nahi paye tumhara karuna pavo then kandiya tumhara na." So here we see that there also he is playing Karuna na hoile kandiya and Rana na rakhibo ahar. This way. This is our only mantra. Or else how can we protect ourselves in this line of sadhana? Do we even have little strength? On our own, how much can we go? Nothing, we see. Like I speak for myself all, like mostly, we see that we don't have any strength. No, just nothing we have. Any moment we can perish. This is the thing in bhajan. Any moment we can perish. Therefore, we see like one devotee, this Mukunda Dutt Prabhu, who is the head pujari in ISKCON. He came to meet the Vaishnavas a few days before for Gurudev's Tiruvati, Mahan Maharaj Vyas Puja. He was recollecting, this Mukunda Dutt Prabhu, that the first time he had darshan of Gurudev was in 1986. Something he said in ISKCON. Gurudev used to come and speak for Swami Maharaj's Tiruvati in Kartik. So there he said, I don't remember everything Gurudev spoke, but he said, I remember 2 points that Gurudev spoke, he said. The first point was that the samadhi was not yet finished to Swami Maharaj. So Gurudev was very concerned. He said, you have to finish the samadhi, he said. And the second point that Gurudev said was, Gurudev looked at all the sannyasis there and he said, sannyasis should be austere, he said. He said, sannyasis should not be used to luxury, he said. And then he said these words struck him. And then he saw by his own eyes that those words of Gurudev came true, he said. He saw like so many sannyasis, they fell away, this, that. So therefore, this danger is always there. So therefore, on our own, we have no strength. So we can only pray that the Vaishnavas, they're an ocean of mercy, an ocean of compassion, that they save us. Or else, in one moment, we'll be blown away like dust. When there's a strong gust of air, that's it. All dust gets blown away. In one moment, just be blown away to the other side of the world. Therefore, we can only pray the Lotus Feet of the Vaishnavas that they always protect us. This is our only hope, only shelter. No other means. There's no other means there. So, one chakra patavishya, vipassana venture, patidanam bhavya vaishnava.
Magyanatimirandasya Gyanamurashalakya Chakshurumilikamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Rajagaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadvaktaya Namo Namaha Vandeham Shri Guru Varam Shri Rupanu Gabravaram Brajarasa Rasigam Chanirayanantam Prapannam Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripasindu Devaja Paditanam Pavanebhya Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I offer my system and pranams thousands of times the Lord Sweet of Shri Paramadadam Guru Parvarma Vishnu Parastatra Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Sai Maharaj Gurudev. Secondly, I offer my system and pranams thousands of times the Lord Sweet of my Shri Rupanaga Gauriya Guru Varga. And I offer my system and pranams to all the Sambhur Vaishnava and the Vaishnava. The Vaishnavas are raising the question that if someone is a durachari, he is doing durachara, then is it possible for a durachari to become ananya? One pointed to Krishna. And is it that if someone is doing bhajan but some durachari is seen in him, then what is his position? Is it that such people are to be rejected? And how can the jiva then finally, how can he attain this ananyata? How can he give up this durachara? So the question is revolving around this sloka from the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Apicha suduracharu bhajate ma ananyabha sadureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hisa kshiptam bhavati dharmatma shashvakshipam nigacchati kaunteya pratijani name bhakta pranashyati. So here Krishna is saying that if someone is not only a durachari but sudurachari, doing extremely wrong things, Gurudev in his commentary to this verse, he quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He says, here sudurachar means the worst kinds of crime, like rape, murder, killing one's guru, killing one's mother and father even. Not talking about some small fall down. It's talking about it very, like the worst of the worst. Then what Krishna is saying, even if such a person is my Ananya Bhakta, then you have to accept him as a sadhu. So we can say that normally there are durachari, just plain durachari. You can see there are karmis, vishais, abhaktas, so many kinds of people. They're doing all kinds of durachar, all kinds of sinful activities. And for them, the process to give up these duracharas, there's two ways. One way is that slowly, like it's described in Jaiva Dharma, like the material world is described to be like an anvil. And the jivas are being beaten on this anvil of Maya. And when they get beaten, suffer so much, so hard, then slowly they begin to turn themselves towards the Lord. They begin to inquire. They call out to the Lord. Oh Krishna, oh Bhagavan, please save me. And slowly, a desire, they begin to become unmukha. And it's a very long process. Then they attain some sukriti, they come into sadhu sangha, and this way they slowly. The other way is to attain some special mercy by any great Mahabhagavad Vaishnava. This is called Bhagavad Prasadagya. Some mercy is attained in our previous lives and some is attained in this life. So generally you see, if someone is an Ananya Bhakta and there is some durachara in him, there must be that from previous lives he must have so much bhajan, like this samskar in him. But due to some faults from his previous lives, like Rupa Goswami describes, Drishtra Sabhava Janitai Bapusha Achadoshai Na Prakritatamiha Bhakta Janasya Pasya Gangam Basa Nakalu Budbuda Pena Pankar Brahma Dravatam Apagachati Niradharmai. Just like the Ganga is transcendental, but sometimes you see in the Ganga there is foam, there's some sticks and like debris floating in it, even sometimes dead body floating in Ganga, but still the Ganga is transcendental, it never loses its transcendental nature. So therefore one should not look at the faults that arise in the body of a Vaishnava and his nature. Rupa Goswami says, this verse we should apply to ourselves, in the sense that we should see all Vaishnavas in this way. But if we try to apply Apichitra Durachara verse to ourselves, then there will be some fault. Oh, I am doing Durachara, but I am sadhu at the same time. No, this work, the instruction by Rupa Goswami we can apply. We should honor and respect all Vaishnavas in that way. Like Ashtavakra Rishi. You see, his body was twisted in 8 places. And when he walked into the assembly of Janak Maharaj, everyone began laughing. Then he began laughing even louder. So loud that they all became quiet. I said, "Oh, why are you laughing?" He said, "I thought I came into an assembly of great learned scholars and great learned personalities, but now I realize I'm into an assembly of cobblers." Cobbler means someone who works with leather, shoes. You're only seeing this leather, the skin on my body, and you're seeing my clothes, therefore but you cannot see the Atma inside. Therefore you have no realization of Atma. Therefore I am laughing. Then Janak Maharaj immediately got down from his throne, put Ashtabhakti on his own throne, washed his feet and worshipped him and inquired from him. So there's this, for Durachari Vyakti, so then the only real way is, there must be some sadhu sangha. But even then, still, it is Prahlad Maharaj, he said that, in his verse, he said, Matirna Krishna parato satova, mitobi padyeta grihavratanam, adanda gobe visatam namisham punas charita charvananam. He said, even if they try themselves, they cannot be purified. Even with the help of others, they cannot. How is it possible? Then he said, Naisha matistapa urukama, krisprishatya nattapagama, mahalpada rajobhishekam, niskintanana vinita yava. Only if they bathe themselves in the footsteps of any great Vaishnava, it means they take shelter of a Vaishnava. That means sincerely take shelter. Then it's possible that they may change. Otherwise there's no way. We can see in the life, actually when you think about these words, Abhichet, Suduracharu, where there are some examples, it's not so easy to find. For instance, Ajamil, for instance, he was a Brahmana. So he wasn't really Ananya Bhakta in that sense. He was dharmic, he would perform some dan, punya, all these things. Then he became a attractive prostitute. But then again, by Narada Rishi's mercy, he chanted Namabhas and he changed. So it's not the ideal example for this. And because we're talking about someone who is an Ananya Bhakta and at the same time he's doing Durachara. So if we look in Mahaprabhu's Leela, we can see there are some examples there. Like Vaninath Pattanayak, the brother of Gopinath Pattanayak, he was a tax collector. And he would collect so much money. But what did he do? These are, of course, these are channel associates of Sachinanda Giridhari. So maybe Vaishnava will correct me if I'm wrong. We cannot apply these verses to parikas of Mahaprabhu. But they are showing some pastime of some misconduct and behavior for our benefit. So this Vaninath is described that he would take the money, then he would spend it. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita it says that he was spending on dancing girls, he's spending on this and that, so many things. Then finally what happened then, he was the king Prataparudra, his son, he went to collect the tax. And he didn't have money, so he went to confiscate his horses. So while he was confiscating the horses, he was putting a lower price on the horse. He was saying, oh, this horse is only worth this much. And then Vaninath, he said, my horses, their heads are always straight like this. They don't keep their heads down. Because the prince, he had a habit, his head was always, he was lowering his head. So when the prince heard that, he became very angry and he ordered him, arrest him and put him on the changa. Changa is they put a sword in the ground and then you sit on the sword and it slowly enters into your backside and then you bleed to death and you die. So when Vaninath was in the prison, then all the associates were going to Mahaprabhu. Oh, please save him now, put him on the changa. Then Mahaprabhu said, why he has stolen the money from the king? Why he has not paid taxes? He should be punished. This is wrong. But they keep on coming to Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu said, if you keep bothering me, I'm going to leave from this place. I will not stay here, I'll go far away from here. So then they did not pursue it anymore. But then, I think it was Ramananda Rai or Sarvama Bhattacharya or Kashi Mishra, one of them, they went to King Prataparudra. And then King Prataparudra said, I didn't know about this. Then immediately he ordered, cancel the execution. And then that Vaninath, he was brought in front of King Prataparudra. He said, Rai, Bhavananda and his 5 brothers. They are considered to be actually incarnation of the 5 Pandavas. Bhavananda is Pandu and the 5, Ramananda Rai is said to be, he is Vishaka Saki, but also in this case he is said to be Arjuna. So each of them, they are one Pandava. So he brought him, and what did the king do? He doubled his salary and gave him more areas. So you should collect more. You need to spend, I understand, I'm increasing your, doubling your salary, but don't misspend, pay the taxes. And this way he rewarded him. Then when Vaninath came and gave so many official pranams to Mahaprabhu and gave everything, then Mahaprabhu he forgave him, was happy. Then Mahaprabhu asked, what were you doing before the time you were going to offer it onto the Changa? I was chanting Harinam. Then how were you chanting? How were you counting? Then someone pointed out, he was scratching his body. Whenever he would chant one name, he would scratch his body. And they showed his body was full of scratches. All the holy names he was chanting. So this is the same, by the mercy of Mahaprabhu and by the mercy of Harinam, then he was freed from that, like that situation. And then after that, he did not misuse the money or anything. It is also said, Shivananda Sen also, when ultimately his son, he had a worker, a Muslim worker, he used to beat the worker too much. And that later he became the Hussain Shah, the emperor of Bengal. Then the queen told him, oh, he saw the scratch marks on his body. Who is beating you like this? Oh, when I was a child, I used to do very nonsense activities. I was very naughty. My master used to beat me. Who was that? Shivananda Sen. Said, you should punish him. Oh, Subuddhirai. Right, Subuddhirai. You should punish this Subuddhirai. So he made him Muslim. Took water and sprinkled on him. For a Hindu, if you make a Muslim, it's like death, equal. No one except your Hindu society after that. So then he went to the Brahmana Subuddhirai. Then they said, you have to drink hot ghee. This is your only prayaschitta. What does it mean? How can you drink hot boiling ghee? That means you have to give up your life. Then he came to Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu said, no. He said that Suchiti Dangdi Nam Agni. That Nam is like a brilliant fire that burns away Kali Karma Sanat and destroys all the impurities of Kali Yuga. He said that just by chanting Harinam, this will be your prayaschitta, this will be your atonement. And this way, then he ordered him to go to Braj Mandal, perform Vaishnav Seva there. He would provide dahi for the Bengali Vaishnavas who would come and residence for them to stay. And this way he would serve the Vaishnavas in Braj Mandal and he would chant the holy names. And this was his atonement. So really, in Kali Yuga, the only atonement is Harinam. And that Harinam has to be heard in the association of a pure Vaishnava. Without hearing it from the association of pure Vaishnava, then that Nam will not have effect. But this is the Paramupaya. This is the only way that we can atone for our offenses in the stage of Kali Yuga. We have to weep and cry. And while chanting the holy names, in the association of Vaishnava, begging for their forgiveness. Then it's possible that this durachar are not everything it can go. Otherwise, it's not possible to go. There are some other examples like Kala Krishnadas. He was attracted by gypsies. And then the gypsy, they wanted to marry him. The Mahaprabhu, he went into the camp, the gypsy pulled him by the sikha and pulled him out. But then, for his punishment, then what did he do? He sent him to Sachimata in Navadvip. He said, you have to reside there. Because he was sent by Nityananda Prabhu with him originally when he was traveling. But Nitaya sent him, therefore, actually Kala Krishnadas is one of the Dwadasa Gopals. So then he sent him where? He determined to stay in Navadvip, serve Sachimata. And by this Vaishnav Seva, Vishnu Priya Satyamaya associated by the service, like Vaishnav Seva, then everything that apparent fault would be cleansed. Chota Haridas, we see, Mahaprabhu was very, very strict with him. He said that Yadi Gaurangara, Yadi Kriti Chaya Rakite Gaurangara Sane, Chota Haridas Katha Taka Janamane. If you want to maintain any kind of love and affection with Gauranga, always remember the Katha of Chota Haridas. And there we see that because of a small fault, actually there Vaishnava gave so many residents because he was being independent, no Anugakta, he was begging these good rights. Also, this was for Bhagavan Das, whose brother was actually has some influence with Mayavada association also. And also because he went to Madhavi Devi's house, and there was, he said that Madhavi Devi, she had a young maidservant there also, and independently he went there to beg, and there was some fault there. Then ultimately, Mahaprabhu rejected him. And then after 1 year, then Chota Haridas gave up his life. But then that Chota Haridas would come in the form of a Gandharva and he would sing to Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu didn't really reject him in that sense. Externally he rejected him, but his service, because he was Ananya, his service continued always. Chota Haridas never gave up his service. Always he was serving Mahaprabhu even in his Gandharva form, he was singing to Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu in the back of the Puri ocean, he would listen. So in this way you can see that for someone who is Ananya, then their service, their bhajan, it will not stop. A real Durachari Bhakti, what will happen? If he does Durachar, then all his bhajan, everything will stop. He will not do bhajan in Bhakti. But someone who is Ananya Bhakti, it may be for temporary, for a short time, he did some Durachar. But then, because of his Ananya Bhakti, then very quickly he will give up that. It won't last long. Very soon he will give up all that Durachar. by the power of his Ananya Bhajan, by the power of his Ananya Bhakti, by the association of the Vaishnava. And then he'll become clean and pure. So this was, we can see in the life of Choti Haridas there. Also, there we can, even in recent times, I don't want to mention any names, but we can see there was one Vaishnava Acharya, he had a disciple. That disciple was a brahmachari first, then the brahmachari, then ultimately he left his brahmachari, he fell down with a lady. Then the Acharya brought him back and gave him sannyas. Then he was sannyasi for some time, then again he left and he got married. Then a second time again he pulled him back and made him Acharya of his mission. So we can see that the power of bhajan, the power of bhakti is so powerful. The Vaishnava Kripa is, we cannot understand how merciful the Vaishnavas, how much Kripa they have. And it is far outweighs any kind of durachar, any kind of misbehavior that might apparently be there in the Vaishnava. But it is only for temporary time. In this song by Sanatan Das, he said, Guru Vikriya Yadi Dekao, he said, in his bhajan, he said, if you see any misconduct in Sri Guru, don't criticize, don't judge. Why this is, in Hari Bhakti Vilas, Sanatan Goswami said, if even your Guru has committed something wrong, then you should not leave your Guru. You should, why? Because he may be Ananya, then he may change. But if Guru is against bhajan and bhakti, he is creating obstacles for your bhajan and bhakti, then that Guru, Jiva Goswami said, you should give up that Guru at once. So there are many considerations, there are many things. Ultimately, only by sincerely being under the guidance of the Vaishnavas, praying to them, crying for their mercy, chanting Harinam, repenting, then it's possible that our durachar in the form of this Bahirmukada, this Avagya, or our misconduct, it can go. There is no other way. We have to sincerely try to follow in the footsteps of the Vaishnava, then anything may be possible. So if we can hear something of these conclusions from the lotus mouth of the Vaishnava, then we may be enlightened and really understand what is this process.
फिर उन लोगों लेकर समुद्र में लेकर मार दिया। यदि ये आचार्य गुरु होकर शिष्य को मार देता है कि ये दुराचार, भाई शिष्य गुरु होकर शिष्य को मार दिए, दुराचार है एक नंबर। तो फिर किंतु ऐसा फिर दूसरा देखो, अर्जुन को कृष्ण बोलता है, अर्जुन देखो ये जो विरोधी कर्म है, सेनापति बन गए, तुमको मारने के लिए बंदूक को लेकर सामान लेकर तैयार है, और तुम क्या कहोगे? मेरे को मार रहा है, मेरे शरीर में मार दिया, इनको क्या कहोगे? भक्त कहोगे या असुर कहोगे? तो अनन्य भक्त मेरा तो मुझसे लड़ रहा है, भगवान से ही लड़ रहा है। भगवान को बाण ऐसे मार रहा है कि कुछ सहन नहीं कर पा रहा है, और जो कोई मार रहा है। यदि कोई अनन्य भक्त है, यदि कोई गलती कर देता है, ये गलती किसके लिए कर रहा है? भगवान उनको साबित होती है। जब भगवत प्रीति के लिए नहीं करके अपने संतुष्टि के लिए भगवान के नाम पर अपराध करता है, नाम पर बाबू थी, नाम भी करूँगा, पाप भी करूँगा, तो नाम करने से हमारा नाम पाप दूर हो जाएगा। किंतु भगवान के लिए यदि कोई करता है, मन्नितम हितम पापम अपि धर्मानिकम करते, जो अनन्य भक्त है, कभी सुने तो सुने क्या क्या लड़ाई कर रहा है। अनन्य भक्त भगवान का, कृष्ण का, कैसे लड़ रहा है? जिनको बांध दिया, अर्जुन को भी, युधिष्ठिर गया तो, कृष्ण गया तो सबको हरा दिया। किंतु क्या कहेंगे, ये तो भगवान भक्ति का लग रहा है, ये तो दुराचार है, करना नहीं चाहिए था, इनको तो वापस देना नहीं चाहिए था। এটা লক্ষুষ भगवान का अन्य भक्त है, क्या कर लड़ रहा है, हनुमान को बांध दिया, मार करके राम लक्ष्मण भरत शत्रुघ्न किसी को नहीं छोड़ा। এটা राम आए तो राम जी के लड़ने को तैयार हो गया, दुराचार कहेगा क्या करेगा। किंतु अन्य भक्तों के उद्यम में यदि ऐसे कोई देखा जाता है तो कार्य करते हैं, तो उसको तो साधु ही समझना चाहिए, उसमें हमारा समझना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा। किंतु जो लोग समझना नहीं है किंतु दुराचार भी करता है, भक्तों के पेश भी बनाता है, वो क्या है। इसलिए इत्यादि में दोबारा कहा यहाँ पे क्रमणा सोचती प्रत्यवय नहीं करती सर्वमुखी सर्वमनुष्य धर्मस्य त्रयात्म मुक्त है। इतना भी धर्म का पालन करता है तब मान वैश्य संपादन करेगा। और क्या बोला, सबका स्वधर्म प्रणाम स्वधर्म आपको पदस्थ योगी ओघ अवधर्म अवधम स्थिति भगतो आपको स्वधर्म स्वधर्म आत्मधर्म पालन करता है, भगवान का भजन करता है। यदि वो मर गया, पतित हो गया या गलत काम कर डाला, कुछ अन्याय कर डाला, तो आत्मधर्म जो पालन किया उसने वो नष्ट नहीं हुआ, उसको ये कर्म भोगने के बाद उसको आगे उन्नति हो जाएगा, इसका पता नहीं है। किंतु जो भी भक्त है, अब अर्जुन है, तीन लोग मार डाला, अर्जुन ने किसको नहीं मारा, कर्मकुल गलत कर दी दुनिया में सब। भीम ने क्या किया, 100 बेटे को मार डाला, यही करके सबको मार डाला, लेकिन हाथ ऊपर कर दिया, मार रहा है, किसी मार रहा है, पता नहीं भक्त तो हो गया कि क्या कोई दुराचार हो गया, तो ऐसा ही मार डाला। इसलिए महाभारत युद्ध हुआ, युद्ध क्षेत्र में हमको बताया जा रहा है, यदि कोई दूर से देखेगा ये कैसे भक्त है, क्या कर रहा है, उनको तो अभिनता है, धर्म के लिए कर रहा है, भगवान के लिए कर रहा है, ये देखना पड़ेगा अनन्यता है कि नहीं। मुख्य बात है अनन्यता, यदि अनन्यता है, बाहरी कुछ करता है तो यह दिशा नहीं है, जो मन निमित्त है प्रीतम पापम अभी धर्माय कर सकता है, किंतु भगवान के लिए नहीं है तो तुमको करना पड़ेगा, प्राप्त होगा उसका मुश्किल हो जाएगा, भोगना पड़ेगा उसको। लेकिन भगवान के निमित्त होने से ये भोगना नहीं होगा, क्योंकि अपने लिए और अपने लिए करने से लोग तो आगे नहीं रहेगा। किंतु यदि भगवान के भरोसा नहीं किया, फिर पूर्व खराब तो गवर्नमेंट स्वागत जनित या ये सब फर्दर होता है, अष्टवक्र ऋषि या कोई भी और है ये होता है, उसको तो भगवान अनन्यता होने के कारण पूर्व कर्मों से गलत कर दिया तो भगवान नहीं। ये जो ज्ञान के प्रभाव जी है, एक अभी जब किसी संबंध रखना तो आया था, घर में रहने के खाना पीना दिया, ठंडा का दिन कमर तमल दे दी, पिलाया, जब उसने क्या किया, रात को जल्दी उठा, सुबह उठे करके उसका कमर बांध करके उसका सुंदर मुंडी बड़ी सामान और बांध दूंगे सबको घर में रहने को किया, पिलाया कमर दिया, सबको किया, सभी वगैरह मिला और वो साधु गाँव पास में और दूर चला गया, करके सब नाम करके माला मंत्र करने लगा, क्या ले आया मैंने दूर से बनाया, फिर वापस से गाँव के जैसे आने लगे तो बोले मारे पकड़ मालिक को मत मारो, आने से आया और ये सब सामान आता है मुझे चला गया था, वापस करने गया ये मैं पूछने आया, आपके घर में मेरा आपका भोजन किया, आपका जो अन्न खाया, जो अन्न का चोरी दिया था साधु पैसे में और मैं धनिया लाया बड़े बड़े बासन चावल दाल तेल चूर लाया मेरे आधा कीमत दे गया मैं उसको ला गया बने आप आ गया दिख गया जी हमने भी तो साधु के सीधे सीधे बदल गया इसलिए जो घर वाले उनको तो बदला नहीं क्यों चोर चोरी का खाया तो क्या फर्क पड़ेगा साधु चोरी का खाया तो साधु को तो फर्क पड़ेगा इससे कभी कभी जिस साधु के अंदर में अन्न को गलती देखा भी जाता है तो किसी कारण से और नहीं तो कुछ तो मुझे वो संस्कार कुछ ऐसे हमारे लिए भगवान को कदर बोल दिया साधु को बोल दिया ढेर मार उसको जहाँ से मार ज़्यादा लोगों ने तो मार दिया वो अभी से खेलने को करता है उसमें कोशिश जैसे कभी ये बचपन से आपने सोचा गलत कर देगा मार उसको मार और उसके ऐसे मारा मारना तो मार तो मर गया गुरु क्या गुरु गुरु शिष्य को जेल में ले गए तो जेल में रहने से क्या आपको पता नहीं हुआ किंतु और सबको भोगना पड़ेगा इसलिए विचार करना पड़ेगा अनन्य है अनन्य होने से यदि दुराचार देखने जाते उसमें शुद्ध विचार भी ये विचार और आगे होने को पाया जाता है सुना ऐसे संस्कृत भी कष्ट आता है दुख आता है और इधर देखो पुलिस मार दे दिया वो क्या बदल नहीं सकते पुलिस को उन्होंने अपना नेतृत्व दे दिया इसको बदल सकते थे कोई तो मार दे दिया वो ऐसी बहुत विचार इसमें सबसे मुख्य चीज ये देखना और
So the Vaishnavas mercifully clarifying that when we see this consideration of apicha suduracharu, the main consideration, the main point we have to see is ananyata. Whether that person is really he's one-pointed, engaged in trying to please the Lord or not. And he said, someone who is ananyata, and if any durachar is seen in them, then they'll be doing that durachar is somehow related for the Lord's pastime, for his doing it for his pleasure. Like the Pandavas, like Sri Ramanujacharya, first he gave example. He had 3 disciples that they would steal from all the money from all the kings and bring it to Ramanujacharya. They had 3 different cities. One would become very small, one would walk in water, and one could see through the walls. So they would steal all the wealth from all these impious kings, give it to Ramanujacharya, and he built 108 Divya Deshams temples all over South India. But finally in the end, after they did all that durachal, that stealing and cheating, then Ramanujacharya took them to the middle of the ocean and he drowned them. Why? Because he was mercy on them. He wanted to give them this Bhagavad Prapti, give them the attainment of the Lord. He sent them directly to the Vaikuntha. Then some of my questions was Ramanujacharya, he's also doing Durachar now. He's also killing his disciples. But ultimately it's done for the benefit of those disciples. And he didn't kill them, but he sent them to Vaikuntha for their perfection. So they were doing that Durachar but for Bhagavan Seva. Whereas a real Durachari, he is doing it for his own pleasure, not for Bhagavan Seva. That's the difference. Ananyata. Like the Pandavas, Arjuna is killing so many people. Bhima, he killed the 100 sons of Duryodhana, ripped the hands of Dushasana, drank his blood, ripped his chest open, drank his blood. And so many things. So much you can say, oh, the Pandavas are doing so much Durachar. But they're doing it all for Krishna's pleasure. This is Dharma Yuddha, for the sake of Dharma. Therefore, it is not real Durachar. But externally it may seem like that. Outwardly people will say, oh, this is Durachar. They're killing, they're drinking blood, they're fighting and so many things. But reality is the desire of the Lord. So that is, because they are Ananya, there can be no fault, cannot be there. But on the other hand, we can see that secondary, we can see that sometimes some fault arises due to some special cause or due to some nature. Like the example been given by the Vaishnava, that one sadhu, he stayed in the house of one rich man and he fed him and gave him blanket, everything and nice. And in the morning when he left, he collected his items, but he picked up some gold jewelry that was there in the room and he ran off with it. Then everyone in the house, oh, the gold is stolen, this sadhu stole our gold, the sadhu stole everything. So that sadhu, he went some distance and he stayed, and in the morning he passed stool and everything, urine, took bath, changed his clothes, sat down to chant mantra. After chanting his mantra, he looked, he said, oh, where did all this jewelry come? How did I bring it here? I must have brought it from that house. Then he took it all and he came back to the house. When he came back to the village, they all wanted to beat him. But the owner said, don't beat him, he will find out why he has come back voluntarily. Let's ask him why he has come. So the sadhu, he said, he is very intelligent. He said, last night you fed me. He said that this prasad you cooked or was it sponsored by someone? So actually it was sponsored by who? And then he said, who? This one merchant, he sponsored me, this gave me the grains and everything. So they called the merchant. And asked the merchant, why you gave these grains? Then he admitted, oh, there was one thief or prostitute. She's doing so much bad business and she donated me all these things to feed sadhu, so I gave it to you to feed sadhu. You see, we ate this, because he ate the food that was donated by this thief or this prostitute. Therefore, immediately this nature temporarily came inside him. And then he temporarily committed this durachar. But then, immediately as soon as he had passed everything out of his system, then everything was alright. Why Bhishma Pitta is shooting arrows at Krishna? He's bleeding. He's attacking the Lord himself. This is not durachar. Attacking the Pandavas, trying to kill them. And the whole time he's siding with the Kauravas. Dronacharya, Bhishma Pitta, they're all siding with the Kauravas, but why? Are they Duracharis or are they Bhaktas? We know that Bhishma Pitta, he is one of the Mahajans, 12 Mahajans. How can he be a Durachari? But because he is doing this for the pleasure of the Lord. So that Ananyachari is the main thing. We have to see, are they doing it for Krishna's pleasure or are they doing it for their own pleasure? And secondarily, we can see that sometimes due to some nature, due to some fault, then this Durachar may arise it may be seen in the character of a sadhu, but in reality, because he is one-pointed Ananya, then that it will quickly go away. Whereas a real Durachari, then he will continue, he will not be doing bhajan and he will continuously be acting and performing these activities. Why we're emphasizing this? This we have to see. Whether they are Ananya or not, whether they are really doing Ananya bhajan. Ananya is not anywhere else. Only one point is fixed to the Lord. Rupa Goswami said, who is Ananya? Krishneti yasya giritam manisadriyeta diksha sichet bhajana diksha sichet pranati bhishya bhajantamisham shushushaya bhajana vigyam ananya manya nindari shunahina sanya. Someone who is bhajana vigya is realized in performing bhajan, bhajadati seva, he is performing transcendental service, he is very big expert in that. Such a person, he is considered to be Ananya. Such a person you should offer your pranam.
देखो एक व्यक्ति बड़े कष्ट से हमने बैठा से प्रॉब्लम मिल रहा है और वो विश्व विरुद्ध बहुत कल्याण के तो बस भगवान का भोजन करता है, मास करता है और बहुत बड़ा भविष्य बन गया और इधर कहते हैं कि वे सम्मान के बिठाने सब जीवों को दया करना चाहिए, सम्मान करना चाहिए, आदर करना चाहिए। एक तरफ से ये विश्व विद्या बन करके सबको छोड़ करके और सबको इच्छा बन गया और एक तरफ सारा जीवन है तो ये क्या होने लगा भगवान ये उसके के लिए तो माना करता है क्या हुआ इसके परिणाम दुराचार नहीं है माता पिता जो पढ़ाया लिखा और ये लोग मर रहे हैं तो अब ये इससे क्या हो भगवान हो गया और कितना दुराचार दिखाई दे रहा है। यहाँ तक यदि स्त्री आ गए बात करना सुबह जो मार्ग कहते हैं इसको सिंगल बोलते में डाल दूंगी बोलते मुझे मछली करवा वो बात करते एक महीने मर गई बोले मरेगी तो काल मरेगी तो आत्मा अभी मत छोड़ा और वो तो ऐसे हैं जिससे हमारा अपने लिए माँ बाप को भाई को छोड़ सकता है बच्चे बच्ची छोड़ सकता है क्या है विचार है क्या है क्या इसके लिए कोई मर रहा है कुछ कर रहा है तो भगवान की करेंगे क्या क्या होगा घर में आखिरी में दिखाई दे रहा है कि क्या छोटे बच्चे रस्सी बना रहे कोई ऊपर रहे नदी बना रहे गाइड दूध कर रहे तो इन लोगों ने तो सबसे बड़ा सदन आगे पर सब कुछ ये क्या दुराचार नहीं ऐसे दुराचार जो कि मैं गरीब खाते सब कुछ कर रहा हूँ रात के 12 बजे मेरे को भगवान को छोड़ कर काम धाम छोड़ कर विचार करते और आनंद करते हैं यदि अनन्यता है अनन्य माता विष्णु ममता अनन्यता है और अनन्यता ही ममता उनको खींचने लग जाए और ये बाहर भी तय कि यही दुराचार दिखते हैं मुझे अच्छे सब कुछ किया तो अच्छे मुझे तो अपने लिए करता है इसलिए ये विचार को करना पड़ेगा अनन्यता कितनी भय है ममता कितना भय है इसके आगे जैसे छोड़ दिया नहीं तो मुझे ये काम करेगा बच्चों को ले आए कितना मिल जाएगा किंतु अभी तो जितने लोगों को होगा कर जाता है उनकी घर का दुनिया में डाल जाता है और नोट लेता है घुमाता है कर देता है तो क्या करता है तो उनको तो भगवान की करता नहीं है जिंदगी इसलिए भविष्य का अपने करते हैं जैसे आप करने का क्या है सब बोलेगा नहीं
Vaishnavas are mercifully clarifying even further. So the Gurudev used to say that there was one person in Mathura that or somewhere he left his wife, he left his children, he left his old mother and father who were depending on him. And he took sannyas and he started preaching everywhere, speaking so many big instructions. But then you see his mother and father, they no one to take care of them, they became paralyzed and they died slowly, horrible deaths. And the wife, she became all ill and she was no one able to maintain her. The children were just roaming around in the street and the whole family living up being destroyed. But so this is why this is not durachara. Why? You can see on this hand, why? How is this acceptable? Then we can see also like Giri Maharaj, we can see that how his wife came to him, said that, oh, I am going to give up my life. And he said, oh, what you should do tomorrow, do just today. What you should do today, just do now. So I'll bring the kerosene. He said, then I'll provide the matches. You bring the kerosene, I'll provide the matches. And then she actually stayed for 1 month. She fasted herself to death. She never left, and she fasted herself. After 1 month, she died. And then Gurudev also, we can see wife, 2 small little baby girls, children, babies, left everything and came and renounced. So we can see on one hand, oh, this looks like great durachar. So not acceptable. But you can see that everything they're doing for Bhagavan's pleasure, or the gopis. Then we can see the Braj gopis. The main example, the gopis in the middle of the night, Krishna called and played their flute. Everything they left. Some Patisutanvaya, Bharti Bandhavan. All the different relations they gave up. Ya Dustacha, Arya Pantam Chahitra Beja Mukunda Pariyushki Vimrigam. All their ties, material ties, their dharma, their chastity, everything they gave up for Krishna's happiness. So we can see this is a great durachar. And Vaishnava gave a nice example that you see if someone were to come in here or go to the street, some house or temple, pick up someone and kidnap that child, then what would happen? The police would come and arrest, there'd be a big case, and you'd go to jail, everything. But the sadhus, they're preaching everywhere, and they're stealing so many souls, so many people, and bringing them here to Vrindavan, keeping them in their ashram. But Krishna doesn't punish the sadhus, and no one else says anything. It's going on. Why? Because everything they're doing is for Krishna's happiness. In the Bhagavatam, Uddhav, he said that Kvemastriya Vanacharir Vyabachari Dushta Krishna Kachaisa Paramatmani Ruddha Bhava. That these gopis, they are Vyabachari Dushta. Their character is like contaminated due to Vyabachar. They are doing wrong. They have left their husband there with Krishna. But Krishna Kachaisa Paramatmani Ruddha Bhava. But in reality, they have this Ruddha Bhav, Adi Ruddha Bhav, this Mahabhav for Sri Krishna. They have the highest love. Therefore, it's not Vyabachara. It's only externally it's seen that the sadhus, the sannyasi who left his family, he did everything for Krishna's happiness. Therefore, Krishna is saying that anyone who takes shelter of me, Saranam Mam Ekam Saranam Maja Aham Tam Sarapavit Moksheshami Mahascha. I take the burden of that. Everything they're doing is for Krishna's happiness. That we have to consider is the main thing. Whether they are like the gopis, they did everything for Krishna's pleasure. The sadhus, what they're doing, everything for Krishna's pleasure. Then it cannot be considered to be Vyabachar. It cannot be considered Dushtachar. But if it's not done for Krishna's pleasure, it's only for your own pleasure, then it is. Then you'll have to suffer the results of that, suffer the reaction of that. And that is not unacceptable. By starting this way, they're giving these beautiful examples and they're clarifying everything. Gaur Vimananda